Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a special online event today called Discovering the Power of the Medicine Wheel: How to Access an Ancient Map to Release Obstacles, Align with Power, and Manifest Your Deepest Visions. My name is Stephen Dine, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really thrilled to be with you here today, learning from some new shamanic teachers to me. Jose and Lena Stevens have really been at the forefront of bridging ancient indigenous practices with the modern world in a way that really allows us to both honor the inheritance and find a new expression in modern life. Jose is an international lecturer, teacher, consultant, and trainer, as well as a licensed psychologist and clinical social worker, and author of more than 21 books and ebooks. And Lena is also an internationally known teacher, healer, and business consultant, and she particularly focuses on the workshops and seminars on shamanism, and also focusing that with the intuitive business approaches, and works with a lot of women in power. So together they founded the Power Path School of Shamanism, and we're really blessed to be with them here today. So welcome, and thank you for joining us, Jose and Lena.
Thank you, Stephen. We're delighted to be here.
Thank you, yeah.
Great. Well, since we are opening up to some deeper shamanic insights and tools and practices today, I want to invite you to open a sacred space for us here so that we really collectively enter into a place of real learning and healing and resonance.
All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone. We're opening fields of community and wisdom, and we're asking all of the allies from the spirit world to be with us, with each one of us. This is about making life better. This is about deeper connections with what's possible. So be in your heart and just allow all those worries and obsessions of the mind to fall away. And as we're focusing on the medicine wheel today, we bring in and call in the spirit of the East with your beautiful light and inspiration, springtime supporting new beginnings. And we call in the spirit of the South with your nurturing and support. And we call in the spirit of the West that helps us to let go of what no longer serves. And we call in the spirit of the North to help us to take right action, to manifest our dreams, and to be powerful out there in the world. We also call in the spirit of the sky to give us clarity, bring in all the wisdom that we need. And we call in the spirit of the earth to support us, to nurture us with deep creativity. So be in your heart, be open. We're so delighted to be here with you today. Oh.
Well, thank you for that beautiful way to begin. I can feel myself expand right along with the drum there. And there's such a power in these ancient technologies, the simplicity of just a drum beat to entrain us to a deeper way of being. And so thank you for that beautiful prayer. So for all those who are joining us, I want to just let you know up front that we're going to have this hour with Jose and Lena, and we're going to be in a really sacred, beautiful space of sharing together. And we're also going to have a chance to go much deeper with them in an upcoming 7-week program called Wisdom of the Medicine Wheel. So we'll talk a bit more about that towards the end of the hour, so just to know that it's an opportunity that's coming. So I always like to start, Jose and Lena, with a bit of backstory. Maybe, Lena, we could start with you about particularly your story related to the medicine wheel and why you've chosen to put a lot of focus on this as a transformational technology that we can all benefit from indigenous cultures.
Well, one of the things that I learned in being on the shamanic path is how important beginnings and endings are. And witnessing many of the people that I've worked with in coaching and helping them to clean up their lives in a way energetically, one of the things that I noticed was that as a culture, we're very messy about how we begin relationships or projects or businesses, and especially messy about how we end them. So, I started studying, well, what is this cycle? What are the different components that really make life flow in the way that is practical and in a way that is purposeful. And so it just drew me back into this flow of energy around a mandala or the medicine wheel. And through our shamanic trainings and through doing many, many different kinds of ceremonies, starting and then ending and seeing what's in the middle, it was a no-brainer. It really just lent itself to working with the medicine wheel. And one of the other maps we work with is a tree of life. And of course, the medicine wheel could be a map. If you dissect a tree, there's a mandala form there. And I've always been very interested in the different sacred geometry and forms that you see in nature, and especially the circle and the spiral, and living more in tune with nature, where you honor the four seasons. It just all makes sense. So that's it's very difficult for me to actually go back and say, okay, on this date, I started working with the medicine wheel. It's something that just evolved, really.
Uh-huh.
And we found
Jose,
it to
how
be.
about you?
Well, as Lena mentioned, the medicine wheel is a map, and I'm a great fan of maps. I love maps. They orient you. They clarify where you are, and they give you an orientation that is, can be extremely helpful. Now, as a culture in our world today, we've lost many of our maps, and they're not being replaced really by anything that's all that helpful. We've had religious maps that were perhaps very helpful in times past, but today they're feeling a little afraid, and they're not really quite what we need. But in the medicine wheel, I found an ancient map that not only was helpful throughout the thousands of years, but very helpful today. And I love maps like that stand the test of time. And so having something that can point the way, having something that can help you divine, having something that can help you diagnose the stuck places in your life, a map that has a flow to it, so there's a movement within it, a map that is associated with nature. This is, an ideal map. And like Lena said, I don't know when I first got acquainted with the medicine wheel. Just gradually over the years, I began to appreciate it more and more because I found great depth in it. At first it seemed kind of simplistic and didn't seem to be much to it. And then I realized that it was a very deep map with many, many layers to it. And so it's become a kind of skeleton almost for much of our work. You can hang all kinds of things on it, and it helps everything to make sense.
Well, Lena, let's talk a bit about what does the map depict, and how do you start to use it as a tool for divination, for accessing different dimensions of yourself, or some of these other functions that can be so helpful.
Well, one of the ways that we work with this map is, like I mentioned, to indicate a good way to begin something and then a good way to see if it's manifesting in the way that you'd like to see it manifest, whether it's a relationship or your day or a project. The other aspect of this map, which I find really fascinating, is an understanding of the masculine and feminine principles and how they show up in the different directions. So, for example, we have, let's say, I'm going to use an example here, the direction of the South, which is the way we use it anyway. And, there's a lot of different traditions that have different animals and they start the medicine wheel in a different position. But this is how we have developed our use of this mandala. And if you look at the South as being related to the summertime, well, what is summer? Summer is warm. Summer is when the plants grow and things are in full bloom, and there's a community aspect to it, and it's about support, and so it's very feminine. This the direction of the South, the way we use it, is about the feminine principle, but there can be negative aspects of that and positive aspects of that. So each direction in the medicine wheel, it's complex, but it's also very simple. So the complexity, let's say, of the direction of the South is that it's about an aspect of the feminine that can either smother you or it can be tremendously supportive. And there's also an aspect of it that can be, that can be unsupportive in a way. So, you can see where you get stuck. You can see where you need work. You can see where you are perhaps in your life in general, which direction you're in, and work with that.
So part of what I'm hearing, Lena, is that it's like each direction holds a certain set of qualities, and we want to bring those qualities into balance in ourselves so you can diagnose which qualities might be out of balance. Is that accurate?
That's correct. That's correct.
Great.
And just like time moves around clockwise, the seasons move that way too. And so everything moves forward. It has a forward motion. And depending on how well you work with the qualities of each direction with your intentions and what you want out of life, you can either end up in a negative place or you can end up in a positive place. And don't we all want to end up in a wonderfully positive place?
So, Jose, let's go back to you. And so when you were calling in the directions, when we're opening a sacred space, like at the beginning here, that so we're it sounds like we're consciously summoning all these different qualities and attributes at that time. It's not just like, I think people might think of like, oh, there's just kind of like a lineage of like, let's praying in these different directions, but it's more about like an activation of different energies. Is that correct?
Well, it's absolutely correct. Each direction is like a frequency, or it's like a field, and it contains many different things. Now, in the shamanic understanding of the medicine wheel, the directions are, each one of them is a face of spirit. There are many faces of spirit, and the four principal directions can be divided up into 8 directions or 16. But each one of those is a face of spirit. And so the medicine wheel is actually a living thing. It's not just, good ideas, but when you invoke the medicine wheel, you're actually invoking spirit itself. And therefore, you're actually opening communication with a great power. Now, even the Catholic Church acknowledged the 4 directions in the 4 great archangels, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and Uriel. Those were the archangels that they said presided over the main directions. So there's a link between different traditions here. So again, it's a powerful living map It's not just like a paper map that you unfold and you look at it, which is helpful, but this is a living map. This is energetic. It starts to transform you the minute that you engage with it. And even if you were just to sit and look at it, it would begin to raise your frequency. It would begin to open your heart. It would begin to do many things that perhaps you were not planning on, and in a very helpful way.
I'd love for you to just get, maybe we can go back to you, Lena, to start to give us a sense. You were going into the South, but like, what is each face of spirit, and include a bit of the above and below too, so we get a sense for how do these different directions activate a different set of qualities in our consciousness.
Well, for example, if we start everything in the East, and what we do is we relate the East to the springtime, where you plant seeds. But in order to start something, you first have to clear what you've had before. Otherwise, you're just layering and layering and layering over old dreams, perhaps old intentions, old patterns. So there's something that we call the void. And that is one of the qualities of the East. And so there's many different frequencies that are held in the void. It's everything and nothing all at the same time, pure potential. But in our culture, people are terrified of going into the void because they feel like somehow there's nothing there. And so what happens is they get very attached to just all the doing. And there's never a time to go into the void. And so if you begin to work with that quality, then you have much more control over your life, and then people don't have to get sick or, have something else happen to them that forces them to go into the void. So we have the quality of the void. It's one of the qualities of the East. And then, of course, if you move to the South, then you have the support piece. The West, one of the main qualities that we work with in the West is death, is releasing the old so that you have a clean slate and you have a lot of freedom to set new intentions with clarity. And then the North is about empowering those things and taking right action. And there's a huge understanding that is possible about relationship with time. And don't we all want to change our relationship with time, because there's never enough of it, it seems. So these are aspects, and they all, I'm talking about just the container or the qualities of them, but there's nuances. There's positive ones, there's negative ones, there's ways that you can get trapped, there's ways that you can get stuck, and there's ways that you can get unstuck by understanding the flow.
Jose, let's go back to you. So how does this relate? I know there's something that you teach around how these energetic patterns also reside in our body, and so that it's like when you're working with the medicine wheel, you're also helping to activate and move energy and release energy in the body.
Well, that it has to do with patterns, and we do store patterns in our bodies. For example, the hard tissue in the body, like the bones and our nails and our cartilage, are the places that the deepest and oldest patterns tend to reside. In other words, they get imprinted in those places. So sometimes when we're trying to break a pattern, an old pattern that no longer serves us, we'll break a bone, or we'll crack a tooth, or we'll do something that symbolically represents breaking that pattern. But there are ways to release patterns from the bones and from the teeth and from the cartilage of the body without having to do damage to the body. In other words, without having to break something. Most people don't understand that. They don't know that. And so, they're willing to go through whatever it takes to break the pattern. But there are more benevolent ways. And one of the ways is to work with the medicine wheel. By actually working with the patterns represented in the different directions, one can begin to change patterns in a more benevolent way, so that there's no suffering involved.
I have actually a funny story to tell about that. And I've often thought about writing a little book called Turning Your Dental Nightmares into a Shamanic Experience, because I'm one of these people that absolutely hate going to the dentist. But I've really started to work with the allies, of the West, because I recognize the whole thing of, okay, so there's something in that tooth, that's holding an old pattern. And it's amazing how you can change the experience and actually work it, instead of, being in such resistance to it, but actually creating truly a shamanic experience in the dental chair. So that was kind of an insight that I had along the way.
I realize that we didn't cover the above and below and the significance of invoking them as well, and what qualities they represent. Jose, you want to carry those too?
Yeah, the medicine wheel is actually more than a flat plane. You can see the four directions there, but there's also a center point, the exact center of the medicine wheel, which actually represents the position or the perspective of our own core self, or you could call that our essence, or our unique spirit. And that occupies the center of the medicine wheel. Meanwhile, our experiences and the events of our lives are kind of like the furniture. And those occupy positions within the different directions. So, for example, in our marriage, we might be in the West, but in our business, we might have just started a business, so we're in the East, which is the beginning of things. And in a different direction, like, say, the South, we might be in our on a project, or in relationship to our family of origin, or something like that. So at any given time, from that position in the center, we may have various experiences going on in different parts of the medicine wheel. So this medicine wheel can serve us in diagnosing and understanding where we sit in different aspects of our lives. So it can be a very useful tool that way. Now, yes, there is an above and below. So a medicine wheel is very similar to a galaxy. And most people think of a galaxy as a flat spiral. But that's actually not so, because there's stars that are above and stars that are below. It's just that the vast majority of stars are concentrated in the horizontal plane. And so that's what shows up on photographs of galaxies, let's say. But really, a galaxy looks more like a ball. It looks kind of like Saturn with rings. There's a part above and a part below, and the same thing with the medicine wheel, because the medicine wheel, remember, is a slice of the tree of life. And the tree of life has a part in the heavens and a part in the earth. And so does the medicine wheel. There's a unique relationship between heaven and earth, and it unifies heaven and earth. It actually brings them together in a certain balance that is good for us. And sometimes we can get a little bit too much earth, or too grounded, or we can have too much sky, too much mental activity. And so we really need a balance. And the medicine wheel helps us helps to remind us what that balance is.
Yes, and working with sky and earth as above and below also helps us to bring the balance of the masculine and feminine in. And of course, that's another intricate layer that is layered over the medicine wheel that we work with.
Mm-hmm. Let's extend this now to talk a little bit about how this can not just be a diagnostic, but so that we can invoke the medicine wheel in the service of particular transformations that we want to go through, or things that we want to birth in the world or manifest. So how might you go about that, and maybe give an example? Jose, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Let's use the example of the South. The South is the summertime, and the South is the middle of the day, and it's the heart. So the South helps us to open our hearts. That's always a good idea in whatever endeavors we're going to be engaged in. The South is also support. It supports our projects, it supports our lives in many different ways. In the South are the containers of our lives. The containers of our lives include, for example, we could call our marriage a container. We could call our job, our business, a container for certain types of experiences. We could call our family another container. Our lives are filled with containers. And the question is, do we experience those containers from a place of support? Does my marriage support me? Does my family support me? Does my business support me? Does this new project that I'm engaged in, does that support me? And if it is a source of support, is the container too small? So I have to enlarge the container. I have to extend it. I have to push the boundaries out and include more in that. Or is it too broad? Is it too loose? Do I need to rein it in a little bit to make it fit in a way that truly supports me today? So in these ways, we can use the South as a measure of how supported we feel, and we can increase the support. Now, the truth is that support is all around us all the time, and most of us don't realize that. We forget that, and we often feel that we're not supported. We feel like we're all alone out there in the world, nobody's supporting us, blah, blah, blah. But all we need to do is tune into the support. So the South helps us to do that. The South helps us to open the field of support, the frequency of support. And so when we're about to engage in some new project, say, it's a good idea to engage the South, to open up the whole field of support so that we feel supported from the get-go. And it keeps us from whining and complaining that nobody supports us, nobody helps us. So the South itself becomes, the medicine wheel becomes a source of support for us.
Lena, want to add anything to that?
Well, just ditto, that working with each one of the directions in the medicine wheel actually is a tool. So it teaches you how to actually gain what that direction can support you with. So if you're working with the South, then what happens is, as you learn to work really specifically with all the energies of the South, that you then become more supported, you connect much more deeply with your support, you understand your support, you bring in perhaps new support consciously that you never thought you had or that you need, and you just never considered that you might need that level of support. So, I just also want to add that we're in our culture, we're so impatient to get to the goal. We're so impatient to, okay, we have to do this yesterday, or, we've got to get this project done. And it's all about the doing. It's all about the bottom line. And so we don't spend as much time as we need to, because the North is where you manifest. The North is like where everything comes together and you see the results. You empower something, you take action, and you see the results. But what happens in the East and in the South and in the West? And so what we do with this map is that you can go backwards and see where you didn't spend enough time, where you got stuck, or where you slid into some negativity, or where you just simply tried to skip it, just to get to the North. And then what happens is that you're not really manifesting in a good way. You're overworked, you're sick, you're tired, everything's a struggle, everything's a hardship. And what we really want to do is end up there with ease and grace.
So let's give a specific example of a goal that somebody might have and how you could then work with the medicine wheels a way to manifest that. So let's say somebody wants to write a book. Jose, how might you begin? How much you engage? You've already done 21 of them, so you've got that part figured out. So let's say, but how could you help? How could you use a medicine wheel to help make that a smoother, more effortless kind of manifestation process?
Well, of course, if I'm going to start a book, I need to start in the east because that's the dawn, that's the sunrise, the beginning of the day. It's also the springtime. And so I need to be in a kind of springtime place. I need to be in a place of dawn. Now, Lena earlier talked about the east as being like a void. And the void can either be a place of great peacefulness, as we achieve maybe in meditation, or it can be a place of chaos. If I begin a book in chaos, I'm in trouble. It's not going to go well. I need to start in a peaceful place. So I need to start from a meditative place. I need to sit quietly and go into that place where I can feel peaceful. And then the book is going to emerge from that. The truth is, the book is going to write itself from that place. But if I start with scatter and chaos and I'm all over the place and I'm anxious and I'm worried and that's not going to work out. So I can't move forward. So the next step would be I would go to the south and I would look for support. What's going to support me writing this book? Is it going to be my relationship? Is it going to be where I'm going to write it? Do I need to go away? And I've done that. I've often gone away and rented a place and just had a place to myself, a cabin in the woods, so to speak, and that supported me. So I start looking at support. And if I feel supported, then I can get into the actual content of the book. And it builds naturally from that place of, I started peacefully, I got support, and now the content is flowing, my ideas are flowing, it's just writing itself. And that moves me toward completion of the project, which is the action of the North. And yet if I go back around and I start in chaos, and then I don't get myself any support, or my support feels ragged or too cramped, then when I get over to the place of ideas and writing, I get obsessive, I can't focus, and then the book never gets done. And I have to table the book. And that's happened to me a couple times. And I know what that process is like. And it's not fun. And books don't get written from a place of, for me, they get written from a place of enjoyment, of fun, of, flow.
Mm-hmm. Great, Lena. And how would you see it continuing, like maybe as a daily practice? So there's a diagnostic of seeing what are the elements in the sequencing, and then how might you work with the medicine wheel on a daily basis to help keep advancing the progress? Like just opening direction, asking for guidance, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I'm going to just use an example. You can use the medicine wheel as a map for your day, a general map for your day. It doesn't even have to do with, some big project or something that you're trying to achieve. But just how about having a better day, having a day that flows. So instead of getting up in the morning and just hitting the ground running with no just quiet time of a few minutes, greeting the dawn or greeting the spirit of the east and saying, okay, I'm starting this day with a don't know mind. I'm in the void, but my intention is to have a really wonderful day. So how many of us actually begin our days with the worry about the to-do list, and we don't sleep well at night because we're concerned about things not getting done, or what we have on our plate, instead of backing off of that and just spending a moment in peace to start the day, and then moving into, what do I need to support my day? Well, you need maybe to have a good breakfast. Maybe you need to, really spend some quality time with your children, or to notice the beauty around you, that supports you. Maybe you do a little, shamanic exercise to bring in your support and your allies for the day. And this is all about being present and conscious. And then you go through your day, and maybe at the end of your day, when you're leaving your workplace or you're closing up a certain aspect of your day or of your work, you honor the West. Maybe if you're in a place where you can watch the sunset, you really pay attention to that you're actually going into the West in the day, and that you close it up, and you take the insights or the information or the wisdom that you've attained that day, and you honor yourself for that. You have gratitude for what you achieved instead of thinking about what you didn't get done. And then you move into the nighttime, where there's a lot of things that happen during the night. In your dream state, you can program before you go to sleep, or you can end the day by basically just saying, whatever didn't get done, I'm trusting that my allies are going to be working this for me even during the night. So you can use this map just to improve the way that you live day by day. And it takes, it takes presence, and it takes some discipline to do that, but it's a very powerful thing to do.
So let's, Jose, go back to you, and let's share a little bit more about just the shamanic approach to manifesting things in the physical realm. So it's a little bit different than our, traditional, logical, here's make a business plan and move, step by step. And so I think a lot of people are interested in shamanism both for guidance, for healing, but also as a more multi-dimensional way of creating what we want to see in the world. So I'd love you to share more about the philosophy underneath that, and then how to put it into practice.
Well, where I begin with that is, my personality has an idea of what I want to do, let's say that day or in my life at that time. But, I really have to check in with spirit, because my ideas aren't always the best for me. It may be that it's a harebrained idea, or it may be something that's actually not really resonant with where I'm going. And it's an idea based on an old dream of mine, and it's no longer applicable. So I have to check in with spirit. And one of the ways I do that is I check in with my allies, who are all representatives of spirit anyway. And they can help me with that. They can help me to clarify, oh yeah, this is the right way to go, or no, you ought to look over here, look over there. And so that's right at the beginning. That's in the East again. That's the dawn. That's the beginning of anything. I like to start my day, for example, before I do anything. I just like to hand my day over to spirit and say, look, I'd like you to direct me today. I'd like you to direct me in the way that's best for me to proceed, and accompany me in my day. So that's a beginning point, and then the rest happens through a type of dreaming. Instead of looking at my life as a fixed, concrete reality that I'm kind of a victim of, I prefer to look at it in the shamanic way as an active participant in a dreaming process. So I'm I'm dreaming my day as it happens. I'm dreaming my life as it happens. I'm responsible for my dream. I'm responsible for the objects in my dream. I'm responsible for the symbols in my dream. Those things that look like people over there are actually parts of myself. Mm-hmm. Everything I see, everything I outpicture are parts of myself. So how am I going to interact with them if I know that? If I don't regard them as something other than me, something maybe I have to compete with or win over, or those kinds of processes that aren't helpful. So the shamanic path is a very different path from in living life day to day. It's very empowering. It allows me to be much more responsible. It gives me a lot more choices because I can redream. I can re-choose anytime I want to. And the feedback is, the proof is in the pudding. So my experience of what the consequences are of my choices is immediate. It feels good. It doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, not a good dream, redream it. If it feels really good to me, then proceed. It's the guidance is right there in the experience.
Each of us has an idea about how we really want our life to be. And there's a part of us that it feels powerless to actually achieve that, not only for ourselves, but powerless to achieve what we want to see happen in the world. And so I really want to stress that, it has to start individually. So the empowerment of each individual person to have a really good set of tools to be able to change some of these old patterns and to manifest from the shamanic standpoint the life that you want, then that has a ripple effect so that we can together as a community actually inform a different pattern on the planet, which is really what we all want. We want to see change. We want to see things get better. And that's a very powerful aspect of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. I think this piece of like re-scripting the dream is so important, of like really being able to take responsibility for all aspects of our consciousness. I think shamans are really helped us really illuminate that our consciousness is causal, and that when we dream something, it's out pictures in a certain way, and it does seem like one of the most important things we can take away is to take full responsibility for everything that we're activating in our interior dreaming world, because that's part of what out pictures then in the larger field. Wouldn't you say,
that
Jose?
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely, and yet all of us have fear patterns that we've been imprinted with, or either from the culture or from our own families, or they've come with us from perhaps earlier lifetimes, and those are obstacles. They're obstacles to us actually being able to dream a world that we want to see happen and manifest. Both, individually, our private world and private experience of life, and the collective experience of life that we'd really like to see manifest as well. These patterns of fear have to be dealt with first, because if you ignore them, if you push them under the rug, they're going to come back to bite you in the butt. They always do, and they're hell-bent on preventing manifestation of a different dream, because there's a kind of inertia that goes on. That these fear patterns try to keep the same old dream happening, even though that dream doesn't feel good anymore. There's an inertia to it, and so we have to deal with those fear patterns, and that is a whole topic of its own. It's actually, extensive.
And one thing I'm also hearing what you're saying, it's like the fear patterns are something that are not just necessarily our own individual inheritance, but something that it is a cultural inheritance too. So it's another thing that I've always found valuable from the shamanic indigenous perspective is that the lineage, that there's a taking responsibility for the healing the wounds of our ancestry and the patterns that we inherit that is actually essential.
Well, absolutely. For example, Americans to have a tendency to be very impatient. We're an impatient culture. It reflects itself in our traffic patterns and in our busy schedules and the crazed lives that we live. And that's something that each one of us has to contend with. If we're not careful, we can look at our impatience as being normal. And that's not a good thing. That leads to poor health. It's stressful. It doesn't lead to happiness. And so we have to contend with each one of us that has been raised in this culture have to contend with that programming, that imprinting. And there are actually steps that we can take to identify it and then to step back from it and replace it with a more patient approach.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, there's so many different areas that we could go into and explore further, but I also want to spend some time sharing about how people can go further with you in your own teachings and traditions that you're carrying forward. So I want to mention that we have this beautiful upcoming program with Jose and Lena that it's called The Wisdom of the Medicine Wheel, Shamanic Journey to Release Obstacles, Align with Power, and Manifest Your Deepest Visions. And so you can find this program at medicinewheelwisdom.com. Again, that's medicinewheelwisdom.com. It's be a 7-week program, and this is suitable for anybody who is curious to explore further to explore a shamanic path. And Jose and Lena have really studied deeply for decades with multiple lineages and also understand it from an academic and cross-cultural understanding. So what do some of these traditions have to share with us in the modern world, and how can we bring them forward in a way that's honorable and honoring of the traditions as they've been inherited, but also applicable to our modern lives? So you can again find the details at medicinewheelwisdom.com. And I'll invite Lena. Do you want to share first about what you're excited to teach and share in this upcoming program?
Well, one of my favorite areas in this whole thing is really understanding how patterns are formed, how belief systems are formed, and really working very, very closely and very deeply with getting to the core of some of these patterns that hold us back and making permanent changes. So that's what I'm excited about, is to bring some of this information that we've collected and worked with for so many years and share it with everyone so that we can spread the wealth, so to speak, because the shamanic path has been so powerful for me, and I can see results always when I am on that path. And of course, we get busy and sometimes we get unconscious about the way that we act or do things during the days. But as soon as we remind ourselves to get back on this path, or we use the tools that we have, it's amazing what happens. So I'm really quite delighted to be sharing this with you.
Jose, what are you most excited to teach and share about?
Well, for one thing, there's much more about the medicine wheel that we could go into. And I like I said, I love maps, and I love that map. And also the nuts and bolts of how the dream works, how we dream, how we manifest that into reality, and the obstacles to dreaming that keeps everybody in a kind of a sleepwalking state, and how to manage those fears, how to identify them, and how to get them out of the way so that we can truly be successful and effective at dreaming the dreams that we want for ourselves and the planet.
Great. Well, I should mention that we're going to have this course, we're blessed to have it as a live streaming video course. So there's going to be an opportunity to really stay connected, to engage in more shamanic drumming, ritual practices that really can bring alive different dimensions of this. And I'll invite Lena, maybe you could give us a tour of the modules. There's 7 weeks, 7 modules. Each week is be a different subject that builds on the last and allows you to go deeper in your journey of applying these shamanic methods to ultimately healing and transforming your life. So Lena, you want to give a tour of the modules?
Yes. Okay. We're starting in the East. So we start with the first module, which is challenging your most cherished beliefs. And what that means really is, what do we need to change, to eliminate, to start thinking outside the box so that we can navigate that void in a positive way and gain some freedom really from our beliefs. So it's a little bit of a mind twister to get you to start thinking outside the box. And the second module is more about the medicine wheel as a map. So we go much more into detail about the map. We go into more detail. We start with the East, so we go much more detail into the spirit of the East. And then the third module, we really start getting down into patterns. And this is a journey taking you through the different ways that we store the information that comes from our experiences, all the trauma, the choices that we've made, the fear patterns, how all of that gets stored, and how to access the core of that to make big changes in your patterns. So that's module 3. Module 4 is all about enlisting support, working with your allies, bringing in new help, recognizing the current support and allies and help that you have, so that you can build a really strong container for supporting yourself. Module 5 is the nature of the obstacles that José was just talking about, the fear patterns, and how they keep the old paradigm going over and over and over again, and what we can do about it. So that's a very, very potent module there. And the 6th one is about gaining clarity, staying focused, dealing and working with the energy of transition, because the planet is in transition now. We're all in transition now. So, we're going to bring in lots of different pieces about the different shifting in frequencies and energy and fields. And we're also going to do some work with the issue of time, our relationship with time. So that's a real fascinating piece as well. And then the 7th module is about taking action, putting it all together, and how do we dream a new dream for ourselves and for others. And this is a very, very powerful one, because we end with a real sense of us as a collective community. Anybody who's on that, who's on the course, will really get a sense of the power of what we can actually do when we use the different fields and when we dream this new dream together.
Well, it's a great curriculum, looks fantastic, and I want to share a few other things about the program for folks who are watching. So not only is this a video-based course, but you also get recordings, audio recordings, so you can listen on your own or at the gym or in the car. You can really, use a lot of your travel time, for instance, as a way to kind of deepen in the teachings of the course. We have PDF transcripts for every class. We have time in Facebook community, a special Facebook community that you can be engaged with, as well as weekly exercises and practices you can do at home. We also have a lot of extra bonuses that have been added to this program. The first is an audio teaching from José called Creating the Future from the Now Place. again, aligning with the deeper shamanic manifestation principles and techniques we were talking about that can really help you jump over some of the normal creative processes and accelerate your ability to create a better future. It's also an audio recording from the Power Path meditation series called The Meditation for the Future. Again, focused more on how do we activate this in our consciousness. And there's another recording also from the Power Path called Effective Intentions, Goals, and Resolutions. So either of you, Jose, you want to share a little bit more about that special bonus?
Well, that has to do with the process of actually selecting a goal, selecting something that we might want to manifest, and what the exact steps are in order to do that. And it's very specific and very laid out in a very clear and understandable way.
Great. Well, it also connects with another bonus, which is available only today. We like to do this as a special gift to you for going to the page at medicinewheelwisdom.com. Again, medicinewheelwisdom.com. And when you go there and sign up today, you get the extra bonus, which is our early registration, and it's called the 4 Steps to Manifesting, how to make it more probable to bring something into your life. So again, that's another audio teaching from the Power Path, and really focused on how do we better manifest. And this is a very practical skill, drawing from the shamanic skill set, activating our power to sculpt a new dream into being, and then to work with all the different directions and the qualities they represent to better move something into reality. So this is a special bonus available when you sign up by midnight tonight. So we've got a lot of value in this program. We've kept it very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $109 or 1 payment of $297 when you sign up and when you pay in full. The program is going to begin on May 2nd, and it's going to run on Wednesdays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So I encourage you to go to the page at medicinewheelcourse.com. Again, that's medicinewheelwisdom.com. medicinewheelwisdom.com, and give it a read through and really check out all the detail and the modules and feel into how this can really better your life and advance your own path of growth and understanding and ultimately service. And I think you'll be very, very blessed to take this program with them. So, Lena and Jose, it's been a delightful hour with you. Anything that you want to share from your heart with folks who are considering taking this next step with you in the Medicine Wheel Wisdom?
Well, this process, we love to teach, but you can't teach anything unless you have participants that are wanting to learn. And so the more people that want to learn, the better. It makes the experience wonderful for us. And we want this to be an experience that is uplifting and expansive, and we want to have fun. And so, we want to share that. So we want not only for you to be in a place of where you're going to learn a lot, but we want you to enjoy the process.
And I would just like to say that I love community. I'm a real community person, and one of my strengths is building community. And I see this as an opportunity to build a really powerful community where we can actually do something for ourselves, but also for the planet, so we can make a change and we can get to the bottom of some of these patterns that hold us back. So I'm excited about that.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Well, thank you for that. And I think we all share that intention that we are here to make the planet a better place. And I think the principles and practices you're offering are a powerful way to do that. So thank you for this hour together. And thank you also for the upcoming program on the wisdom of the medicine wheel. So again, if you are considering joining the program, you're warmly welcomed. You can find all the details at medicinewheelwisdom.com. That's medicinewheelwisdom.com. And when you sign up by midnight tonight, you get the extra bonus, which is the 4 steps to manifesting, how to make it more probable to bring something into your life. So thank you, Lena and Jose, and thank you all for joining us. And may we all go forth with greater wisdom, greater balance, more wholeness from the wisdom of the medicine wheel, and look forward to inviting many of you into the upcoming program to go deeper. So again, you can see more details on Wisdom of the Medicine Wheel at medicinewheelwisdom.com, and you get the extra bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you, Lena, and thank you, Jose, for your time and your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many blessings. Bye now.